that. So, oops, there we go. There we go. All righty. Okay, folks, it is 3 o'clock. This is April 22nd. Welcome to the Speaker Hall of Fame monthly event. A few announcements before we get started with our headliner. Our headliner, of course, is the amazing, incredible Molly Fletcher, being interviewed by our David. So a few things I just wanted to point out to the group as a whole. If you have not registered for Influence, you have to do it very, very soon. 2 reasons why. The price is going up, and secondly, they have already released the tables. If you've been watching the Facebook page and seeing the weekly newsletters, you know this. They will release the tables to the masses at the end of the month. So if you have not registered, you do not get first dibs on the tables. So make sure you do that. When you sign up for the tables, the idea is you're supposed to put the name of your guest at the tables. The issue there is to try to reduce duplication of names. So yes, we all want to sit with Stacey Henke, but we all can't. So, y'all are all just going to have to, put down other people, the mere mortals that you have in your world, all that. So please make sure you get that. We, the committee, do not, because everything is automated. We've been working on getting this automated for years now. So, and I just have to share with you, and Jane knows this, this whole seating assignment for the banquet, I cannot tell you how little I care about this. I'm just letting you know, there's just no caring in my world. I didn't do seating assignments for my own wedding. So we've been working really hard to get this in an automated system. And it is automated by that, the robot overlords are doing it for us. So you get in there, you get it done. If you don't get it done, the robot overlords are going to do it for you. And that's what AI is for, because, this is 2024, people. We cannot be like moving little pegs around like it's, 1962. Okay. Keep in mind, folks, we will have another event just for us folks in June. So we're skipping May. We will at Influence, remember Influence is in August, it is in Denver at the Gaylord. We will have our lunch. Thank goodness for Terry who started that whole thing. And that will be the Sunday before. That is all confirmed. Just some gentle reminders for the team. We do have a CPAE referral Google Docs. So in case you're looking to refer somebody, please take a look at that and refer each other. That would be great. And then Dr. Jolly, you might have an input on this. CAVIT nominations are due. They are due now. Get those in. Dr. Jolly, if you'd like to add something to that, you have 60
please,
seconds, sir. 60 seconds, sir.
Well, just get your, Shiji, you've said it wonderfully. Get your CAVIT nominations in and do it immediately, because the CAVIT committee, and Jim Cathcart would know better than I, because he's been a lot longer, will be committing at some point to start the process. So get your nominations in, please do.
Boom, that was perfect. And with that, we want to give David and Molly as much time as possible. Very quickly, does anybody have anything else the group should know very, very quickly? Anything to anybody? Any quick announcement? Something we all need to know? I think we're good. Okay, David, this is your show. Please take it away with Molly. And Molly, we cannot thank you enough for being here. You are a goddess. You are incredible. We bow.
What? No.
Can't wait to see you. So
all right.
Anyway,
this is getting weird. I love it. So I told Molly ahead of time. So she's become a dear friend, and I'm gonna say things about her in a moment. But to give Molly a little heads up. In this room, you have some of the most amazing Hall of Fame speakers. Many of them have like the 7-figure businesses, and they've made an impact for a long time. They're making an impact for a long time. They have influence in some cases. It could be any number of different ways. So I could go around the room, and you heard a few of them with those early folks that are here. So I'm grateful that you took the time. I'll tell everybody, Molly. Well, I'm going to give you a little of this, and I'm going to say something else. So she's hailed as the female Jerry Maguire by CNN. She made herself as one of the first female sports agents. Almost 2-decade career as president of CSE. She negotiated over $500 million in contracts. She's represented over 300 of the sport's biggest names, and many of them. I could go on and say all those. She's been hailed as 50 world's a top 50 keynote speaker. She delivers all over. We've been on a couple very big stages together, which has been fun backstage, and that's how we got to know each other. She's founder of Game Changers. I mean, really one of the best podcasts and massive following. So if you haven't seen that, she's had Arthur Blank, Dabo Sweeney, John McKay, Matthew McConaughey, Simon Sinek, a host of others. She's had her work featured all over the place, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, and she's amazing. These are the people we talk about that are amazing on stage and even more amazing off stage. And we've been around people that are just amazing on stage. And we're just grateful you're here, Molly. So Molly and I got to know each other on a few stages. By the way, Molly, I was just back at LeaderCast last week. So
No way, cool.
Speaking of you.
Good.
And she's also, we're in a small group together with some people, some of with the folks, Don Miller's folks at whatever that company
Story
is.
Brand.
Yeah, Story Brand, some others. Anyway, dear friend, there are about 8 of us in that, and then we have a bigger group of, I don't know, a couple hundred that are part of that, but that small group I think is what's so important. Our last meeting was in Molly's house, which is a really cool place too. But all that to say, Molly's not in NSA, and I thought, maybe after this she will be. So there's always this recruiting thing we can do. But I think some of the top speakers in the world, sometimes we get in and think we're everything, and there's wisdom, as we know, in the NSA Hall of Fame, in this group and in the bigger group. Sometimes there's some people doing some things outside, and maybe we can do an intervention, as I said, and have her join us. But on her own, she is an incredibly, according by what I know about her, she's doing more speaking on some of the bigger stages than certainly 90% of NSA. And so she's doing what we do. She knows our business, and she's doing some things a little differently. So I think she's a dear friend already, certainly of mine, and I think she will be of yours by the end of this. So Molly, welcome to a part of our Hall of Fame group.
Wow. Thank you. You are so kind. I'm honored. I really am. I'm honored and humbled. And for those of you that didn't join, David was giving me a hard time about my beautiful artwork behind me. I'm having a set design literally redone right now, so that's why the back is so plain. So
yeah. So let's jump in, Molly. Tell us. Yeah, you'll have a set kind of like Marilyn Sherman in no time. Although she already started taking her jacket off, like she's ready to settle in. But Molly, I think for this group here, many know you, many have heard your podcast. I think, it's always bumping to the top of all podcasts in our space, for sure. But I think for everyone, just a quick, your story, and then we want to get into, some nuts and bolts. But what's the quick on your story? Give us a.
You mean relative to speaking, or just?
Yeah, but give us the 2 minutes before that, because
got it.
What you became as a negotiator became much of who you are in speaking. So where you came.
Sure. Well, I was a student athlete at Michigan State, played tennis, and then I wanted to get into the business of sports, so I moved to Atlanta from Michigan. Negotiated a deal for free rent at an apartment complex, which is sort of a fun story I often tell from stage, and then worked as a sports agent for almost 20 years and represented almost 300 athletes, coaches, and broadcasters in that space. And we had, big league guys, baseball players, obviously big league guys, NBA coaches, college coaches, broadcasters, et cetera. And so I sort of started and sort of grew that division inside of the agency. And then I wrote a book because I wanted to help young kids who wanted to get into the agent business. They'd all reach out, and I really felt badly that so many people weren't waking up in life doing what they loved. And so I wrote a book to try to help these young folks.
Hello, I'm going.
Oh, sorry. I think there's some back. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
And so I wrote a book, and then I wrote another book kind of because I started to see the common thread between peak performers, between Doc and Smoltz and, Ernie Johnson Jr. And so I started to see this connection. And so then I wrote another book that was a little more business centric. And that was when companies started saying, hey, will you come and speak about your book? And when I was still an agent, I'd run and go do like a keynote from time to time. And then it really sort of transcended when I actually went across the street at lunchtime from the agency. I don't know if you know the story, David, but I was asked to come and do just a quick 45-minute talk kind of at lunch. And this lady came up to me after, who's really still a friend, Robin Spiesman. And she said, you need to do this. And I'm like, I got like 300 athletes over here. What do you mean do this? Like, I can't do this. And long story short, I really found it to be so fulfilling to share these stories. And I think I feel really blessed because I think as a female, a wife and a mother, there was sort of that unique angle. But then you're talking about sports and, fastballs and curveballs and double switches. And so it was really a blessing. I was able to sort of really connect with men and women and still do. So I made the jump in 2011. And now I do about, 7,500 keynotes a year. It's awesome. So does that help, David?
It does. And it's at a significant fee. And I think there's some reasons for that because, but let's go into, I think, so you started in 2011. How did you start getting bookings right away? How did you start getting paid bookings? Because now you're on big stages and momentum's built momentum, but how do you get?
Well, honestly, Robin really helped me do a lot of the fundamental things that everybody on this call knows, right? She's like, go get mollyfletcher.com, get a reel. Literally that fundamental stuff. And so I did. But then really what was a little bit of a break was there was a guy from Merrill Lynch and he said, hey, will you come in and do some keynotes for us? So I flew to New York. Again, at this point, I was actually still an agent. Flew to New York, gave the keynote. Well, at the back of the room, I feel like I'm talking to people that know these things. So, please know I'm here to serve you. So, but I was speaking and that, there's MetLife, there's Nationwide, there's all the people that call on the advisors in the room. And so those folks were like, hey, will you come and do our national sales meeting? Or will you come and talk at our 0 to 3 years of service or 6 to 9 years of service financial advisors? So that started to get it going. And it was really all referral. And then when I made the jump, I felt fortunate. I got an opportunity with the PGA Tour, who was doing 17 events for women all over the country at different PGA Tour sites where they were trying to get women more involved in the game of golf, who in turn, candidly, would become potentially corporate sponsors for PGA Tour events. And so that, though, as you all know, you've got 250 women in the room from essentially 200 different companies who then go back and go, wait, I just heard this lady. It was, so that really sort of started to evolve. But I would say the first year I probably did 15. And there was one of my health and fitness coaches when I was a student athlete at Michigan State was a really great guy. And he had a woman who handled his bookings and he paid her a fee on that, but no base salary, which was great for me because I didn't have a lot of, revenue, if you would, to just roll out a fixed salary against somebody. And so I gave her we ended up splitting her and she was taking the incoming requests and then I'd give her a kickback fee. And then that evolved to a point where I really needed to get somebody full-time who's still with me. She's been with me 12 years. She's incredible and handles the incoming requests and navigates and negotiates those deals and contracts, et cetera. So the truth is it was really organic.
It was organic for you, much more organic. And just to give everybody a heads up, in about 7 minutes, 6, I'm going to open up for questions because I've got a list. I can do questions the whole day, but I'm going to ask for a few questions in a few moments, or you can put it in the chat and I'll ask it. But otherwise, if you have a burning question that would help you or help us, get ready to ask it. But let's go there really quick because, first of all, I want to ask you about your staff and how you do things because some of us have a lot of people in offices and whatever, and some of us are on our own, in our basement or whatever.
Right.
And by the way, some of those people that are on their own in the basement are 7-figure, bottom line. So they've got a significant business, too. So I want to ask you about the business. Before I do, give us the things that are for sale right now, very quickly. So because you have speaking, and that's a big amount of your revenue still, right?
Yeah.
And then you do tell us the other ones really quickly.
Yeah. So, speaking, my podcast obviously is primarily currently for content and exposure. And I love it. Truthfully, it's so interesting and fun to talk to these incredible people. My books, as many of you know, right? We're not running to the bank with that money because I'm certainly not Ryan Holiday or Malcolm Gladwell, right? So, But I have another book coming out called Dynamic Drive. Hachette was the publisher, and really it's the first time I think I'm doing a book right. And I'm super pumped about it. We have research. I hired an incredible writer. So there's sort of that personal brand side, right? Which is primarily speaking, podcast, books. And then I have
tell us the training, like in the
yeah. So then the training business, basically, Jim Lear was sort of a mentor of mine when I got going. He was a sports psychologist for tennis players, but and I didn't work with him. But he became a friend, and Jim, I said to Jim, look, I want to create a little bit of scale, and I want to make a bigger impact because as you guys know, you come in, you come out of these keynotes, and so that was when I built a training company. So we took 3 of my books and turned them into training products. We have a negotiation program. We have a program on high performance, which is really against my energy clock book. And then we just launched Game Change Her, which is an event that we deliver just for women inside of organizations. So I have coaches, facilitators, who deliver those programs for us and for me all over the world, really, and now certainly virtually as well. So those are the primary kind of revenue streams.
One quick one on that. How do you, just because we're getting into business, how do you get paid? So you get a deal, you pay the coach. Do you get paid per person that they train, or just per, like, how, just the quick, what's the business?
Yeah. We currently we don't do it per head. But we just do a flat fee of, it depends, if it's a 4-hour program, a 1-hour program, or an 8-hour program.
You don't have to say numbers. I'm just saying so that's how it is. They pay and you keep a percentage and you send them out.
Correct. I mean,
And
we handle everything, and then I go book the coach, pay the coach a fixed fee.
Yep. Okay.
And currently it's sort of live. We're going to move into some on-demand, where we get inside of LMSs, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how it's structured, David. And I can share. I mean, I will share anything as the truth.
Well, we can't share pricing on this with that because of NSA. So we'll just hold back. We'll save that for you and I's mastermind. So just exact numbers we can't share. Second thing I had asked before we jump in, this is really good. Just what do you have for support now on the speaking side? Like, you have just the lady, or do you have sales? Do you have, like, who do you have on the support?
Yeah. So I have a woman that handles all the incoming requests, works with the bureaus. So she's point with all the bureaus, which too evolved pretty organically. So, and she's also my COO. So she's been really instrumental in all of my content, right? With even some of my books. She's just really thinks a lot like me. She was an athlete in college too. Really just loves to be number 2, right? Loves to be behind the scenes, pretty kind of quiet, shy, very loyal, incredible. And then basically when we got sort of to a point, we looked at each other and went, man, we need somebody to handle all the logistics, right? Like cars, PowerPoints, riders, all that. So I have a woman that handles all that. She also books all my podcast guests, and she's been fantastic, has a PR background. She's terrific. And then I have a woman over the sales component of our training business, Game Changer Performance Group. And then I have a head of marketing. So we brought it. So it started with the woman handling the incoming speaking requests. She kind of got overwhelmed at some level, right? And then we have a woman, Ann, who handles all the event execution, podcasts, et cetera. And then I have a woman who is overseeing all of marketing. And so we brought her in. She now runs point over both of the vertical businesses and, helps handle candidly quite a few vendors. So we have vendors that manage social media, and a pretty tight and strong system there. Vendors who handle SEO. She sort of oversees all that.
Good. We like to get a little granular here. Everybody else hears all the other stuff. Like, gives us something to think about. No, we like this because what do you actually have? Like, some of us are like, we got a full time. Just of those 4 key people, this is my last granular on this, but are they all full time? Are they part time? Are they virtual? I know your one is
they're all full time. Yeah,
I have 5. Full time. Yep. And are they in person?
We all work remotely, but we get together quarterly.
Yep.
And then we have a stand-up Monday morning call as well. But we see each other quite a bit. Like, we had dinner last Thursday night together because my sales gal was in town and all that. So, but yeah, we're all remote.
Cool. All right, I'm going to jump into questions. First up is Kristen Arnold's question, and then someone else I'll just hand the mic to. But she just was asking, what's your mixed bureaus to direct?
Well, it's evolved. It's about 80% bureau now, 20% direct.
How many bureaus is that split between?
My girl would know that, boy. I mean, there's some that book more than others, but boy, that could probably be 15 to 20 bureaus, maybe.
Wow. Okay. 15. And is there any specific way that you stay top of mind or in touch with them?
Honestly, I don't really, my gal does, but although like when I first started, I did a little bit of like when I was in DC for a keynote, I went and did little lunch and learns with the bureaus. Like I'd go into the boardroom, kind of do a little bit of a, hey, what do you talk about, your background, et cetera, answer questions. And I recommend that a lot when I mentor young people that want to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Did that answer your question? I don't think I did. I think I went on a tangent. Sorry.
I'm gonna, and if Willie was showing his face, I'd let him ask this, but he asked, how do you hire? Oh, I think I do understand one. Let's jump first up. Podcasts, are they sponsored? And Willie,
not yet.
Quite a media.
Not yet.
I'm just trying to figure out how you monetize a podcast. And that's first. Second, with the hire, you got all these people. How did you hire these good people?
Yeah, sure. I don't monetize the podcast right now, but it's very tangential relative to speaking requests that I think come in because of the podcast. Totally. But I don't yet. Could I? Yes. The truth is, though, the math against it, I don't think ladders up to making sense to annoy my listeners enough. With and if I did, I'll be honest, I'd probably start with a nonprofit before I'd even start with something that would pull in, something.
I think this is a really big point. Because what you do, the way you do podcasts, is a gift. It's not trying to monetize it.
Right.
It's giving.
Right.
And it's a really good podcast. So compared to most people in NSA, if you want to see how many downloads she has, I mean, it's a massive amount, but not everybody gets Matthew McConaughey and, Dabo Sweeney either. So those are incredible people. But I think this is something we could hear more of at NSA, not trying to monetize everything. You get tangential benefits and you get booked because of it for sure. And I think sometimes at NSA, we're always asking about, got to make money on this, got to make money on that. We don't. We can just give sometimes, and it can be fun. And you're paid for it. So that's good. Hiring. Okay, so I'm going to shoot to Terry.
I think I didn't answer both of it. Did he have another? There was another one.
He does have the hiring one, and then I'm just going to open it up. I think Terry will actually get on the, even though she can't show herself, she'll say. But let's go with hiring, because all of us, I deal with hiring talent. We both have similar size, or we've had a few more people, I guess. But that hiring is challenging. Getting the right culture, right fit. How do you do it?
I've gotten to where, and I don't do it right every time, but it pretty much through referrals and relationships is really how I'm doing it now, more than anything. Just because I want to know who they are in their head and heart, character, connection, grit. I mean, I really want to hire people that are, it's a small organization. People need to be able to roll up their sleeves and, get after it. And sometimes that means grabbing the ball that's a little bit outside of the court for you. Right. But I haven't always done it right. Candidly, mostly I've had trouble on the training side, more so than on the speaking side. And I lean into a lot of my team for help, right? Like I make them a really big part of the decision. And they vet pretty much anybody before I even would spend that time and energy, because I want to make sure that they like them, they respect them, they think they're a fit, more than anything. And then of course me too, but it is tricky. It's hard, for sure. And that's why I really like to lean into referrals.
This can get really, kind of not cool with some people, but I've heard of people like you that say, you haven't said this, like I only hire athletes because they understand taking feedback straight. Are there any little tricks that are a little, like the bummer with that is you would cut out really good people if you said but there are people that have had big success saying, I always think about this thing, because in our culture, let's say for me, having a farm, having someone that grew up on the farm would be a good worker. I don't have any. Farmer. But what is there any little things you think about?
No, honestly, because we had a couple guys on the training side. So it's not like I'm only hiring women, for example. at all. And I think, you know, my head of marketing behaves like a student athlete in the way she grinds and gets after it, and her level of curiosity and her ability to take feedback, her coachability, her tremendous curiosity, I love. So, but she wasn't a student athlete at all. She was not at all. So I think I don't ever sort of try to box myself in that regard. I don't know that it's right or wrong, but yeah.
Terry.
First of all, thank you, Molly, so much for being here. We really appreciate you sharing your time. My
Sure.
question speaks directly to your zone of genius. I mean, you have been negotiating contracts for athletes and rock stars in a variety of different ways. And I was just wondering, as you have been negotiating your contracts without getting into specific numbers, but is there anything that you've ever thought to yourself, wow, if I was in a room full of my speaker colleagues and friends, I would tell them to negotiate this differently when they're putting together their speaking engagement agreements?
Well, so I think, you know, number one, I don't do the negotiating myself. And I think that's because I have somebody that does it. And I do actually think that's really important. And I say that as somebody who was a sports agent, right? I was able to buffer my clients. So I think that's really, really helpful for a ton of reasons. But I would, you know, what we did about 3 or 4 years ago, Terry, was we looked at the 3 or 4 speaker bureaus that tend to book us a lot. And we quote the same fee out of my office as we do to bureaus, which they appreciate, of course. But really, I went to them and said, what do we need to do to be super easy to work with? Like, what are the things that we can do? And I heard some things that were helpful, right? Like, you know, because one of the biggest things we tweaked was I was just submitting, which is crazy, but we would sort of say, okay, that the expenses were X versus a fixed expense fee for travel. And I do believe that the easier that you make it to do business with you, the better. And so I've really tried to make sure that engaging with us is easy, right? There's the fee, there's the travel fee. And, you know, and then I have a team that is really tight, and does just a terrific job, easy office to work with. I get feedback from bureaus and clients when we go in. So I would say, I mean, to directly answer your question, I would say probably the biggest pivot was being curious with the bureaus of what can we do better, really listening and then implementing those things. And then, you know, and then I think being honest with where do you sit with, you know, whether it's with bureaus or directly, if you're a non-celebrity, what is that range and where does that need to be? I think is an important thing to have awareness around. What are your comps in that regard? But those are kind of the main things that come up for me. And I think also they have to, I mean, this isn't really a negotiation piece, but to me, they've got to know that it's sort of like with my athletes when I was an agent, they have to know whether it's the company that booked you or the bureau that you always show up. Like you don't sometimes not crush it. Like you don't sometimes not give it everything you have. And so I think that has been beneficial relative to the intentionality around ensuring I have the kind of energy I need to show up. Because you can't have, it's like great athletes. I mean, you can't, and we know as speakers, I mean, you don't want to, you can't have bad days when the lights go on and the people are busy and they've shown up and they're paying you a lot of money. They want to make sure that you deliver. So those are just a couple things that come up, Terry, but
Molly, Marilyn,
I haven't really,
you might have a follow-up to that with this negotiation stuff. Do you teach your person negotiate, or do you never negotiate? Like, do you ever negotiate? That would be a question first, I guess.
she'll come to me sometimes and go, hey, here's what's going on. They want this, and then they want you to also do this. They want you to do a keynote, and then they want you to stay and do a leadership session. Yeah. What do you think? It would be 3 hours after the keynote, you know? And so then I'll tee her up with like, hey, if it's within 30 minutes after the keynote, I'd do it for X. If it's the next day, it's Y, et cetera. So she'll come to me, but she's still the voice going back.
Am I hearing this right? Just for all this, you have a significant fee for like non-celebrity fee. It's significant, and you don't negotiate from that much. Is that true?
Oh no, I don't move from the fee much. No. Now the only time would be You know, if it's in Atlanta, which is where I'm based, I might move a little bit. If
Yep.
it's, you know, if it's virtual and it
Mhm.
kind of works with my schedule, then I might a little bit, but
Yep.
not much.
That's enough on that, but I just think that's interesting because there's many people in this organization that negotiate a lot, and I think it's interesting for people to know you're not you're on the very, very high end of, in essence, unless you consider yourself, but you're, you know, a non-celebrity speaker, but on the very high end, and you hardly negotiate at all, which is interesting. Marilyn, do you have a follow-up on the negotiation question?
Well, I guess I would ask you, because I have bureau agents and direct that are asking for discounts, and I don't have a buffer. I am my person. So what advice do you have? Is it a mindset of just being comfortable walking away? I mean, can you give us a little negotiation strategy when we're asked to negotiate our fee?
Well, I mean, I think at the core, right, leverage is everything. And so if you don't need it, or you have enough on the schedule, then it's easy to walk away. And I think what you find, I mean, it was funny, there was a recent sort of gig that came in, and it was, you know, I think it was in California. I mean, so I think you've got to pick your spots when it's better than the problem, right? But I mean, I would say, if they know you'll move, then they probably go, because they care about their client more than they do us. So I think if they know you're going to move, they might want to look like a hero to their client. So they say, hey, she's normally X, but you know what? I have a great relationship with her. Let me talk to her. Let me see what I can do. And then they can go back and look like a hero. So I think it's probably so case by case with each of the agencies and the bureaus. But I think, can you get me inside of what happens, and how are they always coming to you with kind of, they want you, but they can only do this, or their budget is only this?
No, it's a case by case basis. I mean, some have no problem quoting full fee, but I get requests. Mostly the direct ones are the ones that always want to negotiate.
Yeah, no, well, and you know, that's a really good call out. I mean, I would say the directs, they're less sophisticated and they're less familiar with it. So, and I would say my office, we probably do negotiate a lot. I just don't do it. But please know that it doesn't mean that we don't get people that come in. I mean, we have speaker form requests that come in for half the fee for, you know, hey, would you come and do this for, I mean, like, so I think sometimes she'll state the fee and then get a sense if there's a little bit of room, if they can get close. And if it's just egregiously low, then we'll walk away. But if it's interesting and you think there's a little bit of room, I think she probably does negotiate quite a bit. But the truth is, she could probably answer that question better than me. But I would say we do negotiate a lot, though, to answer your question. I just don't do it. So I'm not as privy to it.
Got it. Thank you.
And I also try to figure out from a negotiation perspective, what is their budget? Right? Like, what is their budget? And then maybe there's a way. Sometimes it's just more of, well, I've never paid somebody that much to come and do something for an hour.
Yeah.
What else can she do? I mean, if she's going to be here, we want to use her ass, right? Like, you get a little bit of that. So I think that's when you can start to pull back and have a deeper conversation, get really curious. I always say, you know, turn defensiveness into curiosity and try to understand, what are they really solving for? What are the outcomes they really want? Are there other things that you can do? Like I always say, people really don't pay me to speak. They pay me to get there and travel. Because that's
all right.
really.
I'm going to keep this going in the honor of the 12 minutes I have. I want to get everybody hit as much as we can. And this is awesome. I'm just going to I'm going to jump in for, as you say at the end of your podcast, what do you call them?
You need more energy, David. Like, yeah. I got to get you going a little.
Here we go. Come on. We can match it.
All right, let's go. What do you got?
I want to jump to, here's a quick question. Top ideas. Jane had asked, does Hachette have a marketing plan for you? I mean, and maybe the better question is, what are you doing to market your book? And maybe even the best question is, what's the best thing you've ever done or seen to market a book?
Well, since this is recorded, is Hachette marketing the book?
We
I
all
think-
know that
Yeah.
that's not gonna be.
I mean, we kind of all know probably a little bit what that looks like. I think their intentions are really good. I think that if you want to ensure you're going to get the kind of hits from a PR perspective and a marketing perspective at some level, you've got to probably spend some money to control it a little bit more.
So so I'm going to go really quick here. What's the best money you've ever spent on marketing for that you, or the best idea you have right now for marketing that you're willing to share on the book side?
Well, I number one, I think, I think selling a lot of books, the book has to be good. First and foremost, the book has to be really, really good. I mean, and I know that sounds funny, but for me, when I signed with Shachette, I wanted an advance that was large enough that I could use against everything that I needed to spend for the book to really be a home run.
Yeah.
So I think you want it it's got to be really, really good and move people so that people talk about it. And if they talk about it, to me, it'll be great. I think that the second thing is I'm doing a lot of things to try to load it with 15 or 20,000 books in the cart, but I'm on a mission to sell a lot of books because it's a good book and it makes people's lives better. So I certainly don't want to go like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then like this. I would say, you probably need outside PR, right? I think the mistake I made in my previous 5 books, I didn't have research in those books. And that was a mistake that I think cost those books from really being maybe more, I don't know, more probably respected, candidly, because it wasn't really supported by research. So we've got research sort of, throughout Dynamic Drive. I have a launch team. I have a back end team behind me that's going to route the books for pre-orders. I think the big mistake probably, and again, I mean, I feel, David, I mean, I haven't crushed this book yet, and I've done okay with my other 5 books, but not
Mm-hmm.
great. So I'd rather tell you what I learned after this does really well. But I would say, oh gosh, what was I going to say? We have a launch team. We have bonuses. We have lots of lead mags, sales funnels, giveaways, bonuses that we're doing. I'm spending time on the phone with companies that have booked me in the past and saying, hey, what if we did a virtual 20-minute pre-recorded keynote, and everybody that was at the event in March gets the book dropped directly to them in September when it releases with a pre-recorded virtual keynote that brings the book to life. Mm-hmm. Or, we're talking about doing some videos, similar deal, talking through the 7 keys to Dynamic Drive that will go with the book. So I think those kind of bonuses are important for folks. I think the other thing is just, bureaus, as we know, I mean, they don't really care about books. So you've got to make a decision, and we're including books in keynotes selectively, but at some level you've got to put a fork in it with bureaus and say, hey, for every keynote that's booked at or above fee, everybody gets $250. Mm-hmm. And that just comes out of my margin. It comes out of the top line, but you getting the book out there in front of the kind of people that you think can help spread the word. So
one thing I've noticed on that, and we're changing strategy, as you know, and you and I are with Mo Bonnell is like, what you talk about, someone who spent time on a book that's going to be a bestseller. I mean, it's pretty amazing. His next, all the effort and time. And of course he went with Bard Press, who only publish 1 book a year. Like, they pick it and they got to make sure it's going to be a million copy book. So they're really hitting it. But what was I going to say about the book? I think, like speeches, it's kind of interesting. It starts with having a good one. Isn't that interesting? Like, we actually have to give a good something good to share. Be worth thinking about that. But there's something else I was going to think of. I
mean, David, to me, it's like, I always I love to mentor young women who want to, or just women that want to speak, but it's like, the more you speak, the more you speak.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you deliver a good message and you move people, mm-hmm. The more you speak, the more you speak.
On the book front, I'll tell you something we're doing just to bring it out of this is, we learned something in the pandemic. All the, signings went away. We don't want to touch you. We don't want to cough on you. We don't want to touch you. Right. And what happened to, at least for me, is I'm energetic after it. I love to meet people. And so a lot of booking happened because people came back to the book table and met me, not because we sold books and made so much money. And so our big strategy with the new book, so trust matters more than ever, as you know, Molly, but it comes out election week, which is kind of funny for Trust Matters more than ever. But but this.
David, you need to
Yeah.
tweak that, dude.
Yeah. So this, but the reason we did it the way we're doing is we're giving it away to everybody in every audience every time for the foreseeable future, which is one of the reasons we negotiated way lower buybacks. Simon Schuster, you got to buy the $28 book for $15 ourselves. So, but what we think is, even though signings have gone down, that if you'll give it to them, they will do signing, they will do connection again, and then you'll meet them and bookings go up. So it's just a side idea that might be
that's
for
interesting.
somebody in the room, because so many of those, they've gone away from wanting to do that intimate thing. So I'm going to get through a couple more in our 4 or 5 minutes left. Just notice Jim Cathcart put a really good idea in there. Kristen put a great gift in there for everybody in response to one of the questions on her compensation strategies. I might have missed. Let me go back to Kristen, and I'm open with if you want to give it your own life, Kristen. But she said, "What keeps you inspired and motivated and on the leading edge since you're kind of no longer an agent? What keeps you there?"
Well, I really believe I'm living my purpose more than ever now. And so I think when you align your purpose with what you wake up and do every day, motivation is present, right? The energy is there, the passion is there. So I loved every minute of being an agent, but what I love more now than ever is when you see the opportunity to make an impact, to share stories that are different and unique, that allow people to lift them up and put them over top of their world and live maybe a little bit better. Take 2 to 3 nuggets from every keynote and lay it over top of their world. So I'm actually more motivated than ever before, more grateful than ever before, because I think I'm actually doing what I'm really here to do.
I love it. I don't think I missed any urgent questions. So what do you call it at the end of your podcast again, Molly? I'm sorry, it's escaped me. Your bullet points or your one-word answers.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Okay, here we go. I got a couple that I thought of. Anybody else can have them, but we got a couple minutes left. So they don't have to be perfect, but what's a best book you read?
The best book. I think it was The Alchemist when I read it when I was sort of younger, and I was, wow. I mean, it's sort of that started to kind of unlock that purpose journey at some level. And then when I was a kid, I mean, a lot of the speaking really at some level, I tell this in my TED Talk, my most recent TED Talk was, I used to pick up Zig Ziglar books from my dad's office. He was a salesman. I'd pick them up and read them. And those were really transformative for me, because I was like, wow, you can put words on paper and help people be better. This is so cool. So all of his books when I was young were big.
Awesome. Favorite app?
Favorite app?
That you use as a speaker?
Favorite app that I use as a speaker, Slack. My team, we use Slack. Okay.
Favorite, do you have another resource, a favorite resource that you use in the speaking world or on the road?
What do you mean by resource?
A resource that you use or a gadget on the road. All of us fly all the time. We might need.
Let me tell you my new thing.
Yeah.
I'm in Vegas and Orlando. I mean, I should just get an apartment in each city because it's unbelievable. I'm going to Vegas again tomorrow. I just got this new setup for coffee because you can't get coffee makers in the rooms in Vegas, and it makes me nuts, crazy. Okay. So my new favorite resource is sort of this instant coffee deal, because otherwise you've got to have room service. Pick a time, 4 a.m. because I'm coming in from the East Coast. So you have to pre-schedule the room service or you're waiting an hour for coffee at the Wynn. So
one way, perfect. Do you have a name of that, by the way? I don't know if anybody wants it, but anyway.
I don't. I mean, I just picked it up at Whole Foods because I was in Vegas last week.
Let's see, 1 minute. Okay. What's one way? I think one thing we have in this business is people that don't necessarily kind of stay fresh, relevant, and capable. They have other people write their books. They have other people, they give the same speech they did 100 years ago. I mean, I'm an example of someone who stays on just trust, right?
Yeah.
One thing, but is doing research all the time. Like and he's got to be big enough. But I guess what's one way you seem fresh when we're in person, you're in negotiation, your team, but you stay, and you've even had other people who help with your books, but you've stayed fresh. How do you stay fresh and relevant and capable in your space? Like, right now I'm fresh.
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Well, I mean, and I think it's good. I mean, I think you want to be known for, I mean, when you think of people who, Brene Brown, she's known for shame, you know, or vulnerability, you know, Dave Ramsey's known for debt and cash. You're known for trust. That's a good thing, in my opinion. It's how I think you get, you know, you think of Dave Horsager, you think of trust. That's good, in my opinion, not something that I really realized was that important a couple of years ago. You know, for me, I mean, I'm a huge, I mean, you know, I could answer that question, David. Physically, I do a lot of things to stay fresh. Ice plunges, massages, work out consistently, yoga, Pilates. I mean, there's a laundry list of physical, mental. I stay really curious. I mean, I love to learn, and I think you have to pull back and listen and learn. And you know, this what we do. I mean, at some level, look at some people that are a little bit ahead of us, right? Like if I'm trying to figure out what to call a program, I'll just go TonyRobbins.com, man. Like this guy's got an army of people behind him figuring out what to call things. Like, so I don't mind leaning into people that have been and are ahead of where I want to go, and lean into them for feedback and knowledge as well, or learning. So I think you got to stay curious big time mentally. Mm-hmm. You know, I think relationships are everything. So I think we've got to be emotionally connected to the people in our lives that matter most so that we can show up for other people. If I'm not super connected with my daughters, my husband, and my parents and my brothers, mm-hmm. I don't feel whole, and I can't proceed as a business leader and a speaker without connecting with those 6 or 7 people every morning. Truly,
that's one thing I noticed with you, and I care about that too, like my family. And I noticed you connect every day with your family, no matter where you are in the world, at a certain place. So is there one last kind of one sentence piece of advice or one question you wish I would have asked that you would have gotten to answer for you know, these very successful speakers in this room? But is there one last thing you'd say, here's something I think about a lot, or you wish I would have asked even?
Well, I mean, if you had flipped me a couple questions in advance, I think one of the things that I learned the hard way, and probably people here have too, but it was a week when I was sort of early in my speaking journey, and I was like, yes, I will, I'll be there. Yes. Yeah. You know, cause when you're starting, it's yes. And I remember I sort of I had a week where it was like Philly, Vegas, you know, Orlando. I mean, it was a disaster, candidly. And I was getting on an airplane. It was Thursday. I'd been to 3 or 4 cities, and I was exhausted. And I'd flown my mom down. We had 3 kids in 12 months. That's a whole nother story, to help with our girls when they were like 6, and 7. And I was in tears on the airplane. I was so tired. And that was when I pulled back and said, wait a minute. And this is, to me, a really important thing that I saw with great athletes. You know, the best athletes ask themselves, where will I spend my energy? Mm-hmm. But what I found when I left the agent business, which is really, you know, the sports business at some level, and got more into the traditional business world, was, candidly, it was fascinating for me. It was something I was totally unfamiliar with. I thought, this is amazing. Business people are totally obsessed with time. They're obsessed with their calendars. And I'm like, this is so weird. They like accept meetings, they go to things, and then they're mad they're there. And they don't understand why they said yes. And I'm like, this is weird. Because my guys, or gals, like, they're not going to say yes if they can't show up and throw 80 pitches on the mound that night and I was like, this is amazing. So I think the biggest thing to answer your question, David, is asking ourselves as business people who have a lot of choices about what we say yes and no to, is who and what deserves your energy, and look at your schedule through the lens of energy versus time. And when I made that shift, I came home from that trip exhausted, and, you know, I ended up diverting my flight, went home for a minute, saw my girls, pulled them out of school, went and had a picnic, got back on an airplane, flew back to Miami for another keynote, got home the next day. And my mom, who can bust my chops, said, what are you going to do? Like, you can't keep doing this like this. And that was when I created a system in my speaker calendar with my team, where we literally have Monday through Friday, we have a 7-day window with red, so that, for example, you know, Marilyn, to your question earlier, at some level, it's okay, well, she's already got 2 that week. If I'm taking a third, I'm definitely not moving on my fee. Like, and I usually don't even take a third in a week because it's too much, unless it's in Atlanta or in the existing city, right? And it's a back-to-back deal. Just because, to me, I found you can do a week of 3, but the next week you need 1. For me personally, I can do 2, but I can't go like 2, 2, 3, 3. I feel disconnected from my family, and it's just like, what are you chasing, et cetera. So I that was when we put these weeklies in and really started to get more intentional about saying no. And so you could say yes to what you'd already gotten. So anyway, I could go on and on about that
I
stuff.
love it. You've got so
Could you
much more to give. I
read,
can't wait to see
one
you
time,
soon.
read,
I'm gonna walk.
David,
Willie,
David,
you stepped
quick.
out. Yeah, no,
I
yeah,
didn't
I'm
want her
gonna.
to go
I have
over
to honor Mary.
her positions and people she
Yep,
gets.
she did that when you stepped out. So
Oh.
go, we'll give you the time. I saw your question and I noticed it. And I was just going to tell you, go listen to the recording, because just whenever you stepped out, she gave the 4 positions she has: marketing, sales, and all that.
Okay.
And it's
One more
answered
question.
there.
When's she going to join NSA?
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I need
we
to know
hope
more
you-
about it. I don't know. I mean, I'm grateful. I'm humbled that I'm here. I just want you guys to know my email is molly@mollyfletcher.com. And if there's anything I can ever do to serve or support any of you incredible people, which are way ahead of me, and you guys are way, I mean, you're amazing. You're Hall of Fame speakers. I'm truly, when David called me, I was like, me? What? For what? I mean, these people are like in an association about it. I mean, this is what they. So anyway, if I can ever answer any additional questions or support you in any way, I'm pretty transparent, and I truly would love to help or serve.
Amazing on stage and off. And I want to kick it back to Mary very soon, because I want to honor her too. I'm big on time, and hopefully keep in trust. But Molly, you're a game changer. I trust you, and I'm grateful that we're friends, because you're amazing on stage, amazing off stage, amazing with your family, and more successful than anybody knows here, almost in your business too, which is a pretty uncommon thing to be. So thank you from all of us. And with that, just a big thank you. And you can see some of the notes, and I'm grateful, because these are my friends here in this table.
I know, this is so
In a Zoom
cool.
room of really, really cool, amazing people. And so with that, thank you. You're welcome to stick around. I am going to talk to you about being at NSA, and we definitely want to have you there. And with that, Dr. Mary Kelly.
Oh, thanks. David, thank you so much. Let's all give it up for Molly. Yay!
Thank you, Molly.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Molly.
You guys are incredible. You guys have a little meeting now, I guess, huh? Good.
We just do a very quick thing at the very end. So I'm going to go in order. Is there something we should know or support you with? So if you've got a new book, if you've got a new thing, something the group should know, it's like 30 seconds. This is super rapid fire. And we go in order of my Brady Bunch. So Marilyn Sherman, anything? Okay, Terry Brock.
I have a new course coming out on AI and using Cast Magic for repurposing. It'll be starting later. Get in touch with me if you're interested.
Your Cast Magic program at Thrive was amazing. Jane, then Ross, please.
I'm good.
Ross?
I got to see Cilio this week for lunch. Hi, Cilly.
Hey, buddy. Good to see you again.
Bill Cates, then Dr. Willie.
Nothing special. Thanks.
Doctor?
My music and motivation one-man show is relaunching this weekend in Washington, D.C. And we are now having conversations with television of taking it and making it a broadcast, 1 hour. Well, it's a Broadway style show of music and motivation. So we're excited about that. That's where we're really putting a lot of energy. And the XM show's still great. Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, Stacy, then Jim, please.
No, hi everyone, but nothing from me. Thanks.
Cool. Jim?
I've got a new book. This book came out in 1985, Relationship Selling, and I got Victor Antonio to co-author a 2024 revision with me. So it gave it a whole new life. And I'm doing a 4-day expert summit in La Jolla in about 2 weeks. That's it.
Congratulations on getting to work with Victor. That's awesome. Okay, Kristen, then Leanne, please.
I shot a birdie yesterday, so my golf game is improving. And I was at the NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters show in Vegas last week, where I helped the CEO of Futuri write his keynote presentation that opened up the show. It is the very first human and humanoid robot keynote ever given.
Gosh.
Very exciting.
Wow. That is very cool. Awesome. Leanne?
Nothing for me. It's good to see you all.
All right. And Mr. Cilio?
Good to see everybody. All of you are the only people I could say this to and you'd understand it, which is I'm leaving in a couple of hours for the Dominican Republic on a speech that got booked literally 5 days ago. I don't even know what's happening to this industry, but I'm like, yep, I'll take it.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, folks, thank you so much. One more time, we're gonna give it up for Molly, and then there's some of you who are supposed to stick around and talk to me, and you know who you are. John Cilio, Christine, if you're still here, Bill Cates, and David. But one more time, folks, let's give it up for Molly. Thank you, Molly. Woohoo!
That was
Good to meet you all. You all be safe. Thank
Really
you, Mary.
fabulous.
We got it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
We gotta
David.
promote Molly's
You
book
bet.
when it comes
Thanks.
out.
Thanks,
Woohoo! Awesome. Thanks,
Kristen.
Molly.
Are you still there? Shout out to Kristen. I saw her do an amazing facilitation at ISA.
Thank
She's
you.
awesome.
Thanks.
She's awesome. Jane, if you don't mind sticking around, that'd be great too. Yeah. So
Okay.
Jane, Bill, John, David, if you can stick around for a second, that'd be great. All right.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, David. Gosh, incredible.
Thank you. Glad
Thank you. Great time.
Everyone.
Thanks, Terry.
Bye,
Thanks,
Leanne.
Leanne. Hey, y'all.
Hey,
Hey.
Oops, let me hear. Oops, Leanne's still here.
Tates, how far
There
are
we
you
go.
from the Capitol?
About 30 miles, give or take.
Cool.
Why, you planning on barging in or something? or-
I'm